Come on. There we go. Now we go to this screen. Come on. There we go. Let's see here. Any second now. Come on. Let's see if we can get this. There we go. Neato. All right. Now we got to pop out the chat so I can read it. Put it over here. There we go. All right. I think we got it all. There we go. Let's see. Muggy and overcast in Newark this morning. High from a thunderous bridge end, or is it brig end? I'm not sure. In South Wales. How you doing? Feisty Crabman, how you doing? Temporary good morning? Absolutely. Robert Dean, howdy. Jim Crimmins, how you doing? Good video this week. It'd be nice to see the idea put into action and a game played with it. Sure. North Carolina, Berlin, from the woods north of New York City, Townsville in Queensland, sorry. Excuse me, Cleveland. Hail from the Rockies, how you doing? Good morning from Insomniac, Ontario. Tennessee, let's see here. Hot Germany. Yeah, it's not too hot here, so that's hot Germany. That's not good. You don't want that. Whiskey Lucan, Mexico, according to Bruno. I'm going to take that. Thanks for the help with the pronunciation. I appreciate that. Morning from Texas. Let's see. Morning from Tennessee, Ontario, Alexandria, Nottingham, Marseille in the south of France. Good morning from Germany, spending the Every Other Sunday show priming and appreciating my Marine Combat Patrol from the Leviathan box. It is so hot, thank God I can do that in the basement. Yeah, no, basement's a godsend, I tell you. Northern Alabama, Bronx, Lake District, painting 28mm Slovakian infantry, fun. Sylvania, Ohio. Cambridge, England. Please, could you describe how you did the basing for your recent Space Marines Combat Patrol? It's pretty much the same way I do all my basing for pretty much anything science fiction. I use the surface of the actual base. I generally use bases from Games Workshop, and they have a texture on them. And then I just use that as the base for like the concrete or the asphalt or whatever that I want them to look like they're standing on. And then I just glue on some little bits of kitty litter, maybe a slightly, like a little piece of cork, not like a flat piece of cork like they're standing on it, but like what I'm trying to make the bases look like is I'm trying to make it look like the rubble of a like they're standing in a parking lot somewhere or something, and there's like a building that like took a rocket hit and there's a bunch of rubble on the ground and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to do. Once I get the pieces on there, maybe a little tiny bit of sand, but very frequently it's just like some kitty litter and some little pieces of cork and stuff like that. After that, I then painted a color called basalt gray, which is from Vallejo. And then after that, I throw black wash on it. And then after that dries, I go back and I dry brush with a color, I believe from Army Painter, called Filthy Cape. And then that's pretty much it. It's a pretty quick and simple process. Let's see here. Good morning from the cool and beautiful town of Boulder, Colorado. Well, that's how you doing? Good morning from Wisconsin, building my Astra Militarum Combat Patrol. I am too. I mean, not right now, but yes. Going to paint them to look like roughnecks from Starship Troopers. Nice. Yeah, I have, let me see, what do I have? I have just 10 more guys, 10 more shock troopers to build, and then I have the entirety of the Combat Patrol built. Nothing is based yet, like I don't have any texture on there, so I want to get that done. In a perfect world, I would kind of like to start painting them on stream on Twitch, on Friday, this upcoming, because I believe, I'm 98% sure that my last Gloomhaven stream is this upcoming Monday, tomorrow night. So yeah, like I'm not going to paint the entirety of the Combat Patrol on stream because I want to be able to paint off stream as well to get it done quicker. If I only paint it on stream, it's going to take me forever. So I want to like work on some, shock troopers on stream for a while, but be also working on like the armored sentinel and stuff like that and whatever. So there's that. Hello again from Minneapolis. Loved your con this year. Well, thanks, Denise. I appreciate that. Running 85 degrees Fahrenheit in my house. Installation people need to hurry up and get here. Good morning from Jonesboro, Illinois. Good morning from Newfoundland, Paraguay. Speaking of display pieces, Lionel Johnson is the most normal sounding name in Warhammer. Sounds like he does the Emperor's taxes. Still a great model. Yeah, whenever I think of Lionel Johnson, I think of him wearing a tie. I don't think he does, though. Time to get back on the boat. See y'all again soon. Absolutely feisty crab, man. Emily, how you doing? Hope you're having a lovely Sunday. So far, so good. I put on a clean black t-shirt, and then almost immediately little Margot came and sat on my lap and made biscuits, and then I was covered in cat hair because she's been shedding like it's her job for probably a good month now. So, yeah. Then I had to get the tape roller thing and fix that, but, we'll see how that works. There are times in the year when it's too cold for priming outside, and then there's times like now, sure. Yeah, I kind of wish I had something to prime outside, like some terrain. I should look around and see if I have some terrain. Yeah, that's like, that's like plastic kits that are built that I could quickly prime, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. Good afternoon from a sticky and warm black pool. Like a sticky and warm black pool. That sounds like something from Dungeons and Dragons. Building some of those Skitarii dog rider dudes. Nice. VJ Morph, how you doing? Morning from Kentucky. Putting the finishing touches on some terrain this morning. Nice. Morning from Arizona. Will there be a Board Game Geek page for Majestic 13? To be honest, I have no idea. We didn't start the last two. I don't know that it's up to the publishers to do it. I thought that it was crowdsourced. I don't know. Like the other two pages, the other two games just all of a sudden just showed up one day, but there hasn't been one yet for Majestic 13. So if you know how to do it, you could always start one if you wanted to or something. I honestly don't know a ton about Board Game Geek. I know the people who run it, they're very nice folks. I like Lincoln and Aldi quite a bit. And I go there to get information like everybody else does, but I don't know how the back end works as far as how those things get set up. But yeah. Did you catch that the new Forbidden Psalm standalone game Dread Knights came out? Yeah, I saw a little bit about that. I did. Noob Painter. I see what you did there. But yeah, I did see that. I haven't... I forget. Is it a Kickstarter or is it just out now? I should probably go back and check. I'm really hoping that eventually he's going to do a sci-fi one. A cool, like... I mean, I like the cyberpunk one quite a bit, but I like something like... almost like Aliens, maybe. I don't know if that would work very well. I'm not sure, but I think it'd be kind of cool. Just with my first Combat Patrol in game of 40k ever, and it was a hoot. I'm currently working on some Gene Stealer Cult Combat Patrol. Nice. Morning from Orange County, California, assembling and painting some witch hunters. Nice. Hello from Quebec City. Cat hair adds flair. I mean, to some degree, yes. Good morning from New Zealand. Howdy, Clody. Currently building an Imperialist militia army for 30k using the Rebel Yell models from Wargames Atlantic and putting forage caps on the Canadians. The Cadians, not the Canadians. Just after getting Leviathan, I tried justifying the $188 it would have cost me to get the 3 pre-order models yesterday. I couldn't. Yeah, I got no interest in any of those models, honestly. I don't know what it is. Cowgirl Steve, how you doing? Good morning from Too Humid for Rattlecan, upstate New York. My little battery-powered airbrush compressor died, waiting on the first real compressor to finish priming some Tau. Nice. Hoping to finish up the new hobby space this week. Got to post some pics in the Discord. Absolutely, yeah. Working on some of the one-page rules jackals. Nice. Very close to my first Majestic 13 game. 2 troopers to go. Rolled up the team last night. Nice. That's it. Yeah, it's fun. Like making those types of lists and things like that. I enjoy that, and I like the kind of randomness that we've thrown into that. That's, I think, a lot of fun too. BGG has been an awesome source for solo variants for my board games. Oh, that's pretty cool. What do you think of priming minis while they're still in the sprue? I'm not a fan, personally, just because then you have to go through, and when you clip them all off, you have to go back and fix all the places where you clip. I find it would be difficult, I think, as well, to find all of the mold lines when you're on the sprue like that, because they have a tendency to run parallel to the sprue. So, yeah, it's never been a thing. I mean, if you're having a good time with it, you should do it. But yeah, Dread Knights is out now. Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out. Backing crossbows and catapults for Declan for Christmas next year. Nice. Ciao from Hot Sicily. Finally got my Leviathan box in and got to play a little. It seems Space Marines a bit OP against the NIDs in the box. Well, I don't know. Like, I'll be playing a game with Sam this afternoon. I thought we were playing yesterday because I misread the text that he sent the week before or whatever. And then I was like, oh yeah, we're playing it too on Saturday. And then I looked at the text and I was like, oh, wait, no. Like later on, much later on. So we're playing it 2 today. So the games that we've played so far of Combat Patrol, I have killed a lot of bugs, but he has won the games because it's harder for the Space Marines to hold objectives, because while there are technically 4 units in that Combat Patrol, you're really only ever using 3 units, because you take that Librarian and you attach him to the Terminators, and then they become 1 unit, because you'd be silly not to. He gives them a real cool bonus, and the bonus that the Captain gives them is not nearly as good. The Captain's is like, you get to re-roll charges maybe or something. I don't know. So generally you're walking around with 1 unit of Terminators with the Librarian attached, 1 unit of the Primaris Infernus guys with the flamethrowers, who are also pretty cool. And then you got the 1 Captain kind of walking around by himself, because he can't attach to the Primaris guys because he's in Terminator armor. And that would be weird, I guess. I don't know. I guess the Primaris guys are like, you're not my real dad. And they won't take orders from a guy who's in Terminator armor because they're not in the same armor. Never did quite understand that. But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, the Space Marines are pretty killy for sure, especially against the bugs. But the bugs have more units and have more models in general, and they've just had a better time, you know, at least with our games, taking objectives. Now, that's also because probably Sam's a better player than I am, so there's that too. But that's at least my, you know, anecdotal information so far. After doing kill team sessions at my FLGS, someone is doing Warcry. I can just play. Excited. Nice. Been working on a full table of terrain, scratch built, mostly scavenged materials, low budget, generic fantasy, ruined city. A set I could use for Mordheim. Nice. Do people play kill team alongside their Warhammer 40k narrative games? I mean, it'd be kind of an interesting way to do it, where you have, like, sometimes you have these big army battles where the armies fight against each other. Then sometimes if it's a bigger narrative game, you could then break down into kill team potentially. Well, it'd be sort of interesting. Assembling my, excuse me, Leviathan Tyranids and supplementing it with the Wargames Atlantic Harvesters. Those are cool. Those are cool models. Apparently they are in association with Broadsword Gaming on their YouTube channel. I think I heard that someplace. I mean, they are under their YouTube channel. I think I heard that they were working with them on that, yeah. Working on 9 models at the moment. They're all close to being done, around 60 to 60% completion. I suppose having to stick to one thing when I hit a roadblock, sure. What camera do you use to film this live stream along with the microphone? The camera is a Lumix G7 with a 25mm 1.7 lens. It is plugged into a Blackmagic Design ATEM Mini, ATEM Mini, and it is the thing that converts HDMI to USB for the computer. And the mic here is a Beacon mic, which is spelled BEACN. There's no O for reasons. It makes it look cool, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, those are the things that I use. You would also have to sand all your glue points. Yeah, good point too. Good point. Yep. Patrick C. Davis, how you doing? Howdy. So does anyone actually think 10th is easier to learn or faster? I have had 2 games so far and I honestly can't say that it's simpler. I would say that it's got way less stratagems. That's really nice. I also like the fact that it is, well, I mean, we've been playing so far basically Combat Patrol, which you sort of didn't have the even slightly more simplified. I mean, Combat Patrol uses the same rules, but the army stuff is simplified even a bit more because there's fewer rules per card. They've kind of dialed back, obviously, again, on the stratagems and on the secondary objectives and stuff like that. The rules themselves haven't changed a ton, but one big thing also, too, is the army building is a lot easier because, and I know some people don't like this, but you don't pay extra for war gear now. You're just like, you pay for the squad, and then the squad has options, and you take the options you want, and you don't get nickeled and dimed. Oh, well, I would take a plasma pistol, but I don't have 10 points. Well, now you can just be like, I like plasma pistols, and this says that I can take 1 plasma pistol on this guy, so I'm going to do it, and it's not going to cost me any more points. I think that's a simplification right there. It makes me happy. Also, I like plasma pistols, so there's that too. Total box contents are about 980 for Space Marines and 840 for NIDS. Combat Patrol will be more balanced, so they say. I mean, I think it's pretty balanced, the Combat Patrol. You only have 12 models in the Space Marine one. But those Terminators just don't die. Like, I have not been tabled yet. I just am not getting objectives, you know. And I am like, there was a point in I think our first game where he had a unit of 10 Termagants that charged the Primaris and Furnace guys, and I used Overwatch, and since they have flamethrowers, normally Overwatch you get to shoot, but you only hit on 6s, but flamethrowers auto hit. So when you use Overwatch, you pay 1 CP, you lay that down, and then just lay waste with a flamethrower to a bunch of bugs, and they didn't like it. So those 10 bugs went to 0 bugs during the charge, and Sam learned a valuable lesson that day, and that is to don't charge the Primaris Infernus guys. So those guys have been getting killed during our games, but they've been doing work just before they croak. Whereas the Terminators, I think in the last 2 games, I think I've lost maybe 1 model, maybe 2. Yeah, but they are tough. Never expected Combat Patrol to be balanced. It's just an easier format that lets you try the game out. I mean, the idea is they're trying to balance it. I think that they're doing some of that through secondary objectives, honestly. Like, if you're one of the lower powered Combat Patrols, let's say Imperial Guard, your secondary objectives are easier than if you are playing the Combat Patrol for, let's say, the Grey Knights or the Custodes. That seems to be definitely something that's going on there. Speaking of playing with Sam, how often do you manage to get a game in? Not as frequently as I would like, but do you mainly play with close friends like Sam, or do you have a local group you go to as well? I'm mainly been playing with friends. Yeah, I haven't. Like, soon I'll probably be playing with Sam's brother as well, his brother John, and then my friend Kevin, who owns the local shop that we go to. He's got Eldar he wants to play, but he's got a Wraith Knight, Wraith Lord. What's not the big one, but the little shorter guy who's still kind of big. Like, there's the big one that's like an Imperial Knight type Eldar, and then there's the slightly shorter guy who's maybe only about 4 inches tall. He's got everything he needs to go, and it's all painted, but his base is missing for that guy. I don't know why. I don't know if he magnetized them. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway, he's like, I can't find the base, and I'm trying to find the base. So we'll play that, even though it's Eldar, and I'm not a fan. But and then my friend Josh too. Yeah, we like to play. And he's going to probably be running either Orcs or Blood Angels. I think he's going to run Blood Angels, but he doesn't have an Impulsor. He has a Repulsor, so we're just going to make it counts as Impulsor because he doesn't have the Repulsor. And he could get one, but he's like, meh. So that's fun too. Have you seen the Doomed from Osprey Games? Looks pretty good. That sounds slightly familiar, but I have not seen it. No, I should probably look around a little bit. Have you ever tried to kit bash Deathwatch pauldrons on the push fit Space Marines? I haven't. I'm assuming it would take some clipping, but I have not given it a try. Clipping and some green stuff, probably. Might have missed it. Do you have any thoughts on the new Epic experience or any interest in it? I've not got any interest in it. I'm not... Like, I don't like big army games anyway, even though those guys are physically small. Like, it's still a lot of models. And even though they're small, yeah. The Horus Heresy thing doesn't necessarily interest me. Though I do like the fact that there's just all Space Marines. That's kind of cool. But in general, no, I don't know. I never played the original Epic, and I played the Titanicus game one time. I did a demo of it. A friend, a guy that I know that I was at the wargaming retreat, the Valhalla wargaming retreat, Michael. He ran me through a demo of it, which is very nice of him to do. It was right after it came out, and it was not exactly my cup of tea. Plus, I think painting those guys is going to be super crazy hard. So yeah, at least for me. I'm sealing the sand bases on my Tyranid half of Leviathan. Nice. You'll do great on your display piece going to Wonderfest, a ModelCon kit. Maybe realize it's all about time spent. You have the skills. Heck, you have a lot of time. It'll be great. I think it'll do okay, or it'll be, but I just don't want to do it. That's the problem that I'm having. That's the honest issue. So, relating to the title of today's video, I am going to be doing I've decided that I was going to do last year that I was going to enter the Capital Palette, which is the painting competition at Nova Open. And it's an open thing. It's called Nova Open, but no, it's, you can run, it's not like, Golden Demon where you have to use GW stuff. You could use whatever you want, but I was like, well, I'm going to use some I'm going to use some stuff from GW. And I decided to work on a Death Shroud Terminator guy. I've got a picture of him right over here. So there's that guy. Part of the reason I like that guy, it's Nurgle, and Nurgle's a little bit more in my comfort zone as far as painting is concerned. Secondly, he's got a very open stance to him, so he's not like covering himself by holding a gun, which then you have to, do it and all that kind of stuff. Now, that being said, let me push this. He does have this thing back here, this, I don't know, this half cloak that's vaguely attached to him. And the problem is there's no way to sub-assembly that without clipping it, because the pieces he's attached to, or this cloak is attached to, are under two other pieces. There's this piece at the top here that's got the smoke coming out. Freaking hate when they add smoke to stuff like this. So there's that, and then there's like one of the extra shoulder pads, and then there's this thing that's attached to. So to try to sub-assembly it, I was hanging out with Vince and Sam and Ninjan and Miniac at Vince's place back in December when I built this thing, and I was like, do you guys see any way to do this with a sub-assembly? And they were all like, no, not really. It's not going to really work that well. They're like, it'll be fine. Just paint around it. It'll be fine. I'm like, ugh. So anyway, that's the piece that I'm working on. It's built. I've gotten rid of all the gaps and stuff like that. There's maybe still a little tiny gap. This hose that goes under his arm, from the little mouth thing on his tummy to his armpit back here, there's maybe a little tiny gap in here that I should probably try to fix a little bit more. I've already thrown several layers of sprue goo on it, and they have not exactly done the job, but they're close. Anyway, and I think I gave him a different head. I hope I didn't give him a face like this. I hope I gave him a helmeted head, but I don't remember. I think it's a helmeted head. That would be way easier for me to paint, frankly. Anyway, the problem that I'm finding is, let me go back to here. The problem that I'm finding is that I just don't want, at this point, to spend the super crazy amount of hours doing that. I would rather, and that's the issue. It's very strange. Part of the problem is right now I really want to build and paint Imperial Guard. Like, my plan is that after I get the combat patrol done, I'm then also going to just extend that army out to 1,000-point army. So that army is basically, there's a command squad, there's 2 bases of field ordnance, there's 20 dudes, and the armored sentinel. I have also built a Primaris Psyker. I've built a Chimera. I've built a Hellhound. I've got 2 more missiles to build and finish on a Manticore. I'm going to be adding another unit of 10 Cadian Shock troops. I've got 10 Kasrkins. I've got 10 Death Guard Krieg. So, like, I can definitely take this to 1,000 points, and I'm really looking forward to doing it and everything like that. And I got, like, that kind of head of steam going, but now I'm like, oh, but now I have to sit here and, you know, layer 78 layers of glazes on top of this guy for the next, you know, until the end of August. And I don't know. Wraith Lord is a middle-sized one. Gotcha. Yep. I think flamethrowers have a lesson for all of us. Isn't that true? I think that's true. Yeah. Do you prefer 28 or 32? I asked because I've got some 32 and they look out of place next to my 28. I want to use them all, but my OCD gets the best of me. Those are the same scale in my mind. It's just that some people are taller than others. You know, take a look at The Rock and Kevin Hart. They are technically the same scale, but they don't look like they're the same scale, but they are. So yeah, no, between 32 and 28, I don't have any, like, that's the same scale in my mind. Now, when you start moving into like Marvel Lunchtime Rainbow, whatever the heck, Crisis Protocol, that's 40 millimeters. So that's between a 28 millimeter or even a 25 millimeter and a 40 millimeter guy. That's weird. You could still pass it off and just go, it's a whole bunch of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnsons versus a whole bunch of Kevin Harts. But between 28 and 32, I'm fine with that. I don't, you know, on any given time, I'm standing in a room where there's a lot of people who are different heights than me, you know, which most of us, it's the case. So I'm keen for Epic, but Horus Heresy is boring. No Xenos, no money from me. I don't like Xenos. Although that being said, I am going to probably eventually I'm going to definitely do a Necron combat patrol because I already have half of it done unintentionally, as it turns out, because of Indomitus. But yeah. I magnetized my Shatterbox Lunch Point Wars models, and now I need to do that for everything. So easy to transport, gave myself more work. Yeah, you played yourself. That'll happen, definitely. Let's see here. How can I spend less time painting my figures? I just want to get these models finished, but I apply too much detail. I can't let good enough be. I did a video about that. To just kind of let it go a little bit. I think that's maybe actually what it's called. It's the video called Let It Go or something like that. It's from last year. And yeah, I struggle with that myself sometimes with the Guard because they're the Guard and there's a zillion of them or can be. I'm going to definitely have to practice what I preach in that situation because, I mean, when everything's said and done, I'm going to have 30 the shock troops. Now, to some people out there, they're like, well, that's not even, you barely even have any. That's fine, but I don't like to play big army games. I like combat patrol. I'm going to definitely do a couple, maybe 3 down the road, different 1,000-point armies, and I'll enjoy, I think, playing 1,000-point games, but I have no interest in a 2,000 or 3,000-point game. So for me, having 30 of the same model type, not that obviously the same sculpt, but whatever, it's a lot. So I'm going to have to definitely figure out ways to make that happen quickly. I did just recently paint, I posted about it too on Twitter and on Threads, by the way. You can follow me on Threads if you're interested. It's just tabletop minions. I did just recently paint a squad of 5, a team for Majestic 13 using the URA models from Wargame Atlantic, which they're great models. And they painted up super crazy quick because I'm just like, they need to be dark. Like they're going to be like, you know, Like the whole concept in that game is that these troops show up and they're in military fatigues, but it's always either dark gray or black military fatigues, and it kind of perpetuates the Men in Black sort of kind of myth, right? Plus, they don't have any markings on them that show what, where they're from or anything like that. So people, any civilians that might see these guys show up, be like, okay, well, there was just a bunch of guys in dark military gear, and that's all I know. Well, what did it say on their shoulder? It didn't say anything on their shoulder. Okay, so doing something like that is actually incredibly quick. Like I did the majority of it with airbrush, and I threw a wash over it. I did a little bit of dry brush and maybe a little bit of contrast on some webbing and some pouches and stuff and the boots, and then done. I mean, you got to do the faces and stuff too, but going through and picking out every last, he's got a buckle here, I'm going to have to paint that silver, and then put a wash over it and then a highlight. Just don't do that stuff is honestly, especially if you're running a whole bunch of something. There's just, yeah. Let's see here. I hate painting air. Wow. I suppose that. Are you sick about talking about 40K? No, I've been enjoying it. Could you block the cape off the Nurgle guy with silly putty and airbrush it? I mean, I might. I could definitely do that. I just recently actually bought a bunch of silly putty because couldn't find it locally, so I had to order some online. But I mean, yeah, it's just my concern is painting like the back of his legs underneath the cape. That's the hard part, I think. But nobody should be looking back there, in my opinion. So there, boom. Sculpted smoke sucks. They got to stop. I agree. I really do agree, man. How many 1,000-point armies do you have? My plan is to have a 1,000-point army for Guard, a 1,000-point army for Blood Angels, and a 1,000-point army for my own chapter of Space Marines. My own chapter of Space Marines, those are actually all built. They were built back in 8th edition and then never painted. So I've got I have to build, I already had the model, but I just never built it. I have to build one Primaris captain, but otherwise the list is done, which is awesome. There's like 3 squads of intercessors, a squad of hellblasters. There's like an apothecary in there, or some other shenanigans, this and that. There's a Redemptor Dreadnought. There's a repulsor tanky thing. Yeah, it's all built and ready to go. The bases are even textured. So there's that too. The Guard is, like I said, in progress, and the Blood Angels, the Leviathan Space Marine Combat Patrol that I just finished will be part of that. So I painted those as Blood Angels, and then I will paint the Blood Angels Combat Patrol as well, and then I will add in like one extra piece, like I think it's Death Company Dreadnought, and then that'll be 1,000 points. So I hate GW's obsession with modeled on effects, but they seem to have doubled down on it as late. I agree. I think that since they definitely watch this show, James Workshop watches this show, we should let them know, and then they'll stop doing it, I'm hoping. You can start your own paint jam to get in the mood. I have no problem. Like, it's not like I'm like sitting around going, geez, I don't want to, like, I'm doing plenty of hobby. I just don't want to do that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the issue. It's not like I'm having a hard time getting motivated to paint or hobby. I've been doing it a lot. Like yesterday, I spent a bunch of time building. I just don't. Yeah, I just the whole concept of sitting down and spending 40 or 50 hours on a single dude, I just don't like it, which is why when I get this done, this will probably be the only, I mean, unless something really crazy and drastic happens, it is unlikely that I'm going to become a display painter. This is going to be a thing I'll do it. I'm like, I said I did it. I'll do it. I did it. It's done. And then back to painting tabletop, because that's, I think, what I prefer. I started a display piece, which was a stepped pyramid with a huge demon emperor guy standing on top of it. I've stalled on it, and I don't really understand why. You know, I can understand that. I'm also entering Nova this year, but I'm not putting any pressure on my painting, just painting the best I can and learn how to improve for the next event, probably LVO. Nice. Lunchtime Rainbow. It's I could never remember what it was. It was like Marvel, and then I could never remember the next two words when it kind of first came out. It was like it's Marvel something something. I don't know. And then I did Lunchtime. I just started making up words, and Lunchtime Rainbow became the one. So Marvel licensed bungalow. See, there you go. Any other words after that? After Marvel, whatever. Will the Horus Heresy Epic game have terrain, and will it be a BattleTech scale? It'll be pretty close, I think. I don't know. Actually, that's not good. That's a good question. I'm not sure. As someone who has mostly chaos stuff, I like Xenos as my opponents, to be honest. Sure, that's fair. I could prime and base coat your capital palette mini and then dip it into, and then when you need to break from and then leave it until. I would prime and base coat your capital palette mini and then dip into it off and on. I gotcha. Okay, I was thinking you meant like dip it into like army painter stuff or whatever. When you need a break, if you leave it until you're under a time crunch, you won't enjoy it. Sure. Yeah. Let's see here. Primer question. If I'm using Monument Hobby Primer through an airbrush, how long do I need to wait before starting to paint, specifically airbrush? Do I need to wait 24 hours? I generally wait overnight. So for me, when I do the airbrush stuff through or the Monument, I don't thin it and I spray it over, and I'll do it maybe in the afternoon or something like that, maybe in the evening, and then usually by the next day when I'm ready to paint. Like if I get up crazy early, maybe not yet, but I generally give it maybe a good 12 hours. Yeah. I was a little sloppy on my second Majestic 13 Trooper, and after taking a breath, I decided to just move on, let it go, so to speak. There you go. See? I keep looking for some minis that basically look like dead human fantasy characters, but I want them to look like they haven't been that way and lying around for a long time. No luck so far. Yeah, I don't know. In the world of 3D printing, I bet there's somebody out there who's just made a lot of here's a bunch of dead guys, fantasy dead guys, modern dead guys, sci-fi dead guys. But that's only if you've got access to 3D printing or a friend who does 3D printing. But you could look on Etsy too. A lot of times people will print stuff on Etsy, or sometimes you can find somebody who will print whatever you need. If you're like, hey, I'll send you the STL that I bought from somebody else. Could you print this and then send it back to me? There are people that do that too if you don't have access. But yeah, as far as just let's go buy a big plastic box of dead guys, I haven't seen that too much. That's a good point. Why 1,000 points and not 2,000? Don't like 2,000. It's too many. It's too big of a game. It's too many models on the table at once. It takes too long. I prefer the smaller games. So 1,000 points for me. Homebrew chapters are the best. What color scheme symbols will be yours? And have you lore dreamed up for it? I don't have any lore dreamed up for it, but they're going to have the same symbology as the Black Templars, because originally, a long time ago, when I first made my custom chapter, it was response to me getting into Black Templars in 5th. And I started building a lot of Black Templar stuff. And I bought those upgrade boxes they had that had all the special shoulder pads and the cool chest pieces and the tabards and all the stuff that you'd stick on the side of your rhino and all that cool stuff. And I was going heavy into it, and I was starting to play, but I hadn't painted yet, but I was going to get them painted as soon as I got everything ready to go and got things dialed in. And then I think it was 6th edition came along, and they got rid of the Black Templar Codex and just folded them into the Space Marine Codex. And I got real salty about that. So I had all this unpainted stuff that was covered in Maltese cross type, Black Templar jazz. So I decided to make them into my own chapter, and I just basically painted them blue and then painted their shoulder pads silver. And I think I was calling them Steel Cross or something like that. I think I need to workshop that name a little bit. And I think I might try going a darker blue with the silver. I don't know. I haven't quite decided yet, but I had never even got really far on that army either, because then I got, I started doing more chaos, and then I actually fell out of 40K in 7th edition because I just didn't like 7th edition. And then 8th edition came along, and then I was playing my chaos again, generally around 1,500 points. And then 9th edition came along, and I didn't like 9th edition. So here we are. So yeah, I have, like I said, I was building in 8th edition all these Primaris and all this stuff from the Dark Vengeance box or Dark Imperium or whatever the box was that launched with 8th edition. And I was giving them all those Shapeways shoulder pads, unless I had actual, they're not Shapeways shoulder pads, they're just the icon that you glue on, because those guys were all basically push fit for the most part. But then I had other models that did have their own shoulder pads that could go on that weren't push fit, and then I would just use regular, Black Templar ones. So yeah, I'm trying to figure that out though. I'm not sure. Uncle Adam is like your dad's cool brother. Well, that's not nice of you to say. I appreciate that. Have you played Dead Zone 3rd Edition? What do you think of their minis? I have not. I bought Dead Zone 1st Edition. I painted up the Enforcers. I painted up a unit of an army of Enforcers and an army of Plague. I painted up the terrain, and then we never played it. And then 2nd Edition came along. I bought the books for that. Never played it. And then 3rd Edition now has come along and still got the books. Have never played it. There's nobody around here that plays it at all. And I just, yeah, it's never worked out. Let's see here. I've not had much luck finding STLs with dead figures I want yet either. I do, and I have printers to do it myself. There should be somebody out there who knows how to sculpt. They should just start sculpting dead guys and they could make themselves some money. You know what I mean? Hey, Adam, saw you brought up Krylon Camouflage Flat Black. How well does it spray? I've had a lot of non-hobby spray cans have large splatter spots, and I'm wondering how smoothly it covers. I've had really great luck with it. I love all the Krylon Camouflage. Even the Rust-Oleum, which, like I said, I don't think has quite as nice of a nozzle. It's still fine, but yeah. Now, that being said, I don't as much anymore use it on figures. More often than not, if I'm using rattle can these days, it's for either like big, like maybe a monster or a vehicle, but even then I'm still probably using airbrush. It's generally I'm using it for terrain. So if there's like a little tiny bit of splatter or something like that on terrain, it's probably a ruined building anyway, if it's anything. So you don't even notice it. But I don't use rattle can nearly as much anymore on figures. I generally use my airbrush. So your mileage may vary, but I've had good luck with the Krylon stuff, and I've been using it for years. I like it quite a bit. Anything over 1,000 points makes me think of people wearing monocles and top hats, drinking brandy, playing for hours. Interesting. Just makes me think of how much of a headache I get trying to play that long and that many models, and how slow everything goes. Etsy is my new miniature best friend. Nice. Yeah, Etsy's good for that kind of stuff. If I remember correctly, Epic Heresy is 8mm and Battletech is 6mm, so not a huge difference. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm pretty sure that both those numbers are right. And yeah, it's not a big difference then. Most of the dead guys in mini games are the up and walking around variety. Sure. Oops, everything moved. How do you keep dust off your built, waiting to paint and painted models? So if it's Gesundheit, if they're built but not painted, dust is sometimes a problem. Part of what I've been doing a little bit more recently is I go to the dollar store, which the Dollar Tree, which everything's $1.25 now, but whatever. And they have like a lot of like plastic little tubs. I actually bought some last time I was there that are maybe, I don't know, let's say 10 inches across, 8 inches, and then long, and then maybe shorter, maybe 6 inches. I don't know, maybe they're bigger than that, but they're not very big. And they have integrated like hinged flaps. So instead of a lid that you can then lose, they're attached and it's like hinged and they kind of overlap when you close them and they lock. I'll put a bunch of stuff in there just so I don't lose it. You know what I mean? Like, because if you just have like, let's say 8 figures out of a 10-figure unit and you're going to work on the other ones later, and you take those 8 figures and you're like, if you're me, you're like, well, where am I going to stack these guys for right now? Well, then they're gone, right? So you put them into one of those things, you close it up, and they're not going to get too much dust on them. Worst case scenario, you take a makeup brush and you just dust them off before you start priming. That's the smart move anyway. I also find that no matter what I do, I get tiny little spider webs sometimes on my miniatures. I don't know what these tiny microscopic spiders are trying to catch by just putting a single strand of between like the guy's hand and his shoulder, but it'll be there. And then when you prime it, you're like, oh, now he's got it, and you have to try to get rid of it. It's a pain. Anyway, regarding dead fantasy humans, my mini factory Ve Victus has a collection of STL models for cheap. I was kind of thinking somebody must. Went to buy another set of your brushes as a gift yesterday, and they're sold out again. Yeah, I found that out Friday. I think it was Friday I found that out. Thursday or Friday I found out that the brushes are sold out again. Guten Tag from a sweaty, sunny Germany. Hope you all stay hydrated. Tim, how you doing? I hope that you stay hydrated yourself, safe for sure. Someone before said that it was like 96 degrees Fahrenheit right there right now. That's pretty hot. That's not fun, especially if you don't have any kind of air conditioning or anything like that. Peer pressure to start 3D printing at my FLGS is worse than the warnings I got about peer pressure involving drugs in school. Still, I just say no. Well, I mean, those folks who are really big into the 3D printing, you could be like, well, can I pay you to 3D print some stuff for me? And then they have another reason to justify them having a 3D printer, and it should make everybody happy, you know? Station Forge makes some cool dead guys in their Grimguard line. Nice. Rust-Oleum bought out testers, and they've started selling Dull Coat again. I wonder if it's any good, because Dull Coat used to be great. And I knew that about Rust-Oleum because I was looking at the Rust-Oleum website recently, and I saw Tester's logo on there. I was like, oh, and I didn't realize that they recently bought them, but I thought they always had, but I didn't know that. Dull Coat. The spray can Dull Coat used to be my favorite matte varnish, and then they changed it, and now it's not as good as it used to be. It's not as matte. The matte varnish I've been using lately is this weird stuff that I bought from a company called Instar, Instar, and they are based out of England, and they have this stuff called Varnish Plus that I spray through my airbrush, and it's ultra matte, and it's really nice. I like it quite a bit, but you got to pretty much order it from them. It's not, I don't think, available at any store that I've ever heard of. And I ordered it just before or just after the Russian gang cyber attack of the Royal Mail. So it took me about a month and a half to actually get it shipped finally, but it did finally show up. Worth it too. I like it. Sorry I'm late for the party. That's okay. Been watching England finally beat Australia at Leeds. There you go. Is Aunt Adam knitting this morning? Nope, she's reading. Papsicles has some dead people on their Dropship Troopers and Aliens versus Humans line. That makes sense, sure. Catmaster Studios, how you doing? They're plastic shoe display boxes that interlock. These are smaller than that unless they're for kids' shoes because, again, they're $1.25. But they have other types of things at the dollar store, all kinds of different shapes with like integrated lids, not integrated lids. But yeah, that type of stuff works actually really nice for just like, I have this project that I need to put on hold for a bit, and I'm going to stick it in this box and then set it someplace, and I'll come back to it later. And they're clear, so you can look at them easily, so you're not like digging through cardboard boxes going, what's going on? Yeah, it's nice. Dull Coat is awesome, just expensive. It used to be really good, and then, like I said, I think they had to change the formula for reasons, and then it's a little bit more satin than it used to be, and I wish it were not. It's 96 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but brick and mortar walls keep it at 75 inside without too much AC. Well, that's good. We find that our house, like, when it first gets hot, our house stays cool, but then eventually, as it starts to get cooler outside, then our house gets hotter. It's like there's a delay. Like if it was cool yesterday and then it's hot today, the house stays cool, but then the next day the house starts to get hot from yesterday, but even though it might be cool now again, you know what I mean? It's like there's this delay. And it's like it's sucking up the stuff. What works for me when tackling a model that needs more attention is doing as little as a single layer on a single part, often no more than 5 minutes each day. This has kept me from fully burning out. Yeah, no, I get that. I mean, I don't... It's not that I'm in any way burnt out. It's just that I would rather do something else. That's the trick. And by something else, I don't mean like playing a video game or watching TV. I mean, I'd rather paint stuff for tabletop that I'm going to game with versus painting stuff for display that I don't. Yeah, I don't know. But I'm hoping this week to get started. I have the general idea for the concept, like the guy down here in the lower corner, in this title card in the lower right corner, he's more the kind of green colored Death Guard. I'm going probably more for the off-white kind of, whitish closer to the original like 30K Death card. Like that's kind of be my starting point, and then I'm going to grunge it all down a lot. So it's predominantly like a ivory, like a green, like a desaturated, slightly lighter, well, maybe slightly mid desaturated green, and then probably some bronze or something like that. That's the plan, at least. So never had good luck with dull coat. Also, in the long run, the spray cans are too small and too expensive. Yeah, they're not cheap. Usually use Krylon Artist Matte Finish. I've never tried that. I've made dead body objective markers in Titancraft. You can make dead characters in that, export the STLs, and then have it printed. I should look at Titancraft, because I've never looked at it. I should honestly figure out what... I should probably figure out what... like what kind of stuff would be, because I know that I don't, well, maybe they've got dead guys on Hero, what's the Hero Forge? Do they have dead guys on Hero Forge? Can you like position them to be laying down looking dead? Because I've only ever used Hero Forge, but Titancraft, I've been hearing about it on and off. I have a 20-year-old can and compared it to the new dull coat, and you're correct, it smells different too. Well, I know that Tester's dull coat spray was banned, well, not banned. That formula, the original formula, was banned in the UK, not the UK, Europe in general, all that whole area over there, outside of the US, let's say. And so then they had to change it, and then it was not nearly as matte finish anymore. And then, but it still was okay in America. And then all of a sudden, one day in America, I noticed a change too. So I have a suspicion there was something in there that was probably causing, who knows, brain hemorrhages, cancer, something like that. Building the dark side half of Shatterpoint core box right now. After recently building 1,000 Suns Combat Patrol is making me realize that building can actually be fun if it's not a GW product. GW stuff is becoming a little bit less fun to build. I will be honest, I'm not as big of a fan of building the Cadian Shock Troopers, the new ones. Because all their legs are two-part. So for a long time, like Space Marines, most Space Marines, Imperial Guard, all that kind of stuff, their legs, it was like you'd clip it off the sprue and it was all one piece. It was like torso, it was like pelvis and then two legs all the way down to feet. And so you clipped that one piece off and then you clipped off another piece that was the chest. And if it was Space Marines, the chest was two pieces back to front. But if it was Guard, I think it was only one. Maybe it was two. I don't remember. And then you would just kind of glue that onto the torso. And then they went on however you want. So you could kind of twist them a bit. And then, you kind of just did that way. And it was not too bad. Now, admittedly, those older Cadian models, they were real chunky. Like their wrists were all like this big around. Everything looked like, boy, those guys are thick, And, but the new ones are a little bit more, actually properly kind of proportioned, right? But they're doing that thing that GW is doing now. They're like, yeah, but what if every model was 8 pieces? And you're like, but they're like, well, what about 12 pieces? And you're just like, yeah. So I got to be honest, they're not fun to build just because of that. Like you have to okay, I've got to clip these legs off. And I've got to glue them together this way. And then I got to do this. And then the front and the back of the torso. And then I got arms and the gun and the head and the roll on the back of there. Like, why is the roll, the bed roll, separate from the backpack? Why is that not molded on there? I guess maybe if you just shows that they didn't bring bed rolls and then you could not put it on there, but it seems like it's supposed to go on there. And I don't know why it's just not built in. Anyway, it's kind of weird. They follow an asset pay model on Titancraft. You pay for a group of assets, and then you can then export unlimited. Hero Forge is expensive because you pay to export every model. Oh, I see. Okay, so you buy, right. Okay, kind of like the way they used to do it with, no, that's not true. Well, I guess it was true. Technically, there was something called terrainmachine.com, which was this awesome website run by the folks who do imperialterrain.com. And it was, you could go through and just pick out what you wanted and then build terrain and then say, I would like to buy the STL of this, please. And they would, based off the size, they would give you the price. Or you could be like, I want to pay for this asset set, which was considerably more money, but then you could make as many of these things as you wanted. Now, the downside is they went out of business. Like Imperial Terrain is still around and doing all kinds of great Star Wars-y type stuff and things like that. They make great terrain STLs that you can print yourself. But the actual like make your own cool model or like make your own cool buildings and things, that they closed down. And I'm assuming it was probably server costs were crazy expensive. Because every time that someone was like, okay, cool, I'm going to buy this thing, it had to like render it all and do the STL work. And I bet that that was probably pretty expensive. But it was a super cool service. I really liked it. I'm bummed that they don't have it around anymore. Listening to Uncle Adam and painting my orcs equals hobby paradise. Well, I'm glad to help. Absolutely. You can do dead dudes in Hero Forge? No kidding. Well, they keep adding stuff to Hero Forge, so that's pretty cool too. Rust-Oleum chalked matte finish. Chalked matte finish. I'm not familiar with that at all. I'll have to take a look at that. Guerrilla Miniature Games likes it. Well, I mean, Ash is pretty smart. Inexperienced painter here. At what skill level should I start learning Zenithal priming? It's hard to say. I would tell you honestly to start early. There's no reason not to. What I would tell you to do is probably not do it like I do. So when I'm doing Zenithal priming, I'm generally priming the model black with my airbrush, and then I'm going and I'm spraying it from above. Well, this is a big model, but still. So I'm taking this and I'm spraying it from above down with white, not straight down only, kind of like, hitting it like a cone. Like, let's say you were to go, if this is 0 degrees and this is 90 degrees, we go to about 45 degrees and we spray in a cone around it with the white. And however you want to do that, whether you turn the model or you turn your brush, whatever you do it that way. And then when you go through and start using transparent colors over the top of it, you have those gradients and all that stuff, and it's built in, and it's pretty cool. That said, you can do the same thing to some degree with just a cheap makeup brush from the dollar store. One of those big ones, one of those big honking ones. You go to the dollar store and you get one of those cheap makeup brushes, which from what I have been told by makeup wearers, they're terrible for your face. Don't use them for your face. They should be just sold as hobby products, but then the price would go way up. So don't do that. But yeah, no, it is definitely one of those things where you just basically like want to use, you prime your model black with a rattle can or however you like to prime your models. And then you take some white on a makeup brush, like a big fluffy makeup brush like that, and you dry brush it over the top. And then now you have kind of the same type of thing. It's basically what the kids these days call slap chop. If you've heard about slap chop at all, it's basically you prime black. I guess sometimes they do that with like a gray and then another layer over the top of it that's white. That's up to you if you want to get that fancy. I'd tell you to skip that gray layer personally, and then just use contrast paints and washes and other types of transparent paints over the top of it. You could get into that now, easy. Just get yourself a big old makeup brush. If you already have an airbrush, well, then you're already ahead of the game, and you could do that way too. It's not hard to do. If anything, I think it speeds things up. I do most of my painting that way. J-Tick, how you doing? Gonna be seeing you soon at Gen Con. I absolutely hate building GW stuff. I've hired a guy to do all my building for me for my commissions. Other companies have ruined me for building. Yeah, it really feels like they're trying to accomplish something over there at GW. I get the feeling what they're trying to do is one of two things. They are either trying to make it so that when you look at the sprue from the edge, not looking at it flat, but looking at it from the edge, they're trying to make it so it takes up as little vertical space as possible so they can slide as many of them as potential into a box. Or they're trying to save on plastic, and they're trying to make it so that, these legs would be a lot, like in some situations, like especially like the chests on the Cadians, right? The Cadian shock troops. When you put them together like that, the front and back part together, now they're a little hollow in the inside, which means that over the long term, they're using less plastic. And I really feel that they're going through and trying to find all these little efficiencies to pull as much money out as possible, which I guess is fine, except that it gets to the point where I hate building their models because of that. Yeah, I agree. It's a pain in the butt. More pieces, but they go together in less modular ways. Yeah, that's also kind of true too. Like these Cadians are not push fit, but you can't, like, a lot of them, once you put the legs together, And then you're going to put the torso on there. If you want to have him twisted and be like one way or the other, you can't do it. His legs go on there, or his torso, which is 2 pieces, goes onto his legs, which are 2 pieces, only one way. And that's kind of a bummer sometimes. Like, they're cool poses. It's not just a bunch of dudes standing around like it used to be back in the day. I know a lot of people love to talk about how, like, oh, the posable models are so much better than monopose. I'm like, yeah, but they're all just kind of standing there, and you're just kind of posing them a little bit. Like, hey, I can make his gun go down or up, or I can turn his head or his torso. That's great, but yeah, I don't know. I got 10 more of those guys to build just to get the combat patrol done, so I've been thinking about them a lot. So there's that. Let's see here. I built a Black Templar Sword Brethren recently, and I swear he was 20 plus pieces. Not fun. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I agree. I'm trying to think of something I built just recently. I was like, oh my God, that went together so quick. And I forget what it was now. It might have been the Wargame Atlantic stuff, because those guys, their legs are always like, they're like waist down is always one piece. Like, there's no such thing that I've come across so far. Now, I haven't built all their kits, but most of their kits, the waist down is all one piece. And I'm like, oh, that's refreshing. I enjoy that. It's nice. Asset groups on Titancraft are by genre, so sci-fi, assets, fantasy, sorcery, steampunk. That makes sense. Do you think I should Primaris my cosplay Space Marine or make another character? Primaris seems like a lot of work because those guys are real big. Maybe make a different character that doesn't take as much construction. Maybe make a cool Inquisitor. I bet that's what I would do. I would like to be an Inquisitor. I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. Good morning from Connecticut. GW still isn't as bad as Malifaux and Weird. Well, okay, that's true. I have never yet in a Games Workshop model ever had to glue on just the beard on a guy whose head is this big. True. You got me. Yeah, that's a good point. I keep working on my logo for my channel as I listen to you. Thanks for the encouragement. Absolutely, Blake. There's also Eldritch Foundry, which is a subscription model, unlimited download. Interesting. If you're asking when you should learn Zenithal priming, it might be too late. This call is coming from inside the house. Whoa. No, I mean, I don't think it's ever too early to start, honestly. I think honestly, if a lot of painters started with Zenithal, just a very simple, again, dry brushing white over the top of black and then using contrast, like that concept that is the slap chop method to some degree, I think that there'd be a lot of painters who'd be like, oh, I like this result, like a lot quicker than otherwise. If you need more sprue to make the same number of guys, you aren't saving plastic. You'd think that's the case, wouldn't you? Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure that, I mean, I'm assuming that they know what they're doing on the technical side. So I understand that they're building these and they don't care whether we like building them or not. We just want to buy them. I get that. But if they're doing any kind of streamlining or whatever of the process, they're trying to do it to make it so that it's cheaper for them. I have to assume. I've noticed my Grey Knight Terminators are all identically, basically, if you have the same weapons. Sure. Put together the assault intercessors from the last iteration. Hated having to follow the instructions. The lack of modularity is appalling. You know what's really interesting I've been finding as building these older Astra Militarum. I get the words Astra Militarum and Imperial Guard mixed up, so that I'm like, Astra Guard. No, that's not. That sounds like something you spray in your armpits. Anyway, those old vehicles, Chimera, Hellhound, Manticore, there's no numbers on the sprues. They're just like, things are simpler. So they're just like, here are the parts. Here's a picture of them. You can figure it out. You've got a working head, you know, and you just go, oh yeah, okay, this goes together and this goes together. And it's been really refreshing building older Imperial Guard vehicles. They're really nice. And it's been pretty great as building other stuff from them recently, like the Armored Sentinel and even those field ordnance, gun emplacement things, which are newer models. Those are a little touchy, but boy, building the Chimera-based stuff, that's like, I don't know that I'll ever build a full-blown tank for my 1,000-point army, but if I do, it won't be the Rogel Dorn, which is the new one. It'll probably be the good old Lehman Russ. That's my idea. But I don't even know if I'm not even sure if I'd go down that road. Maybe. I absolutely hate that I need the instructions for building today. Back in the day, you could get all the parts out of the sprue in one pile and just build away. Yeah. Yeah. You're not wrong. Yeah, especially with troops. You could just be like, oh, cool. These are all legs. These are all torsos. That's easy. This is a head, obviously. Yeah, that's for sure. I love Wargames Atlantic. Them and Victrix are my go-to kits. I've never seen Victrix. Like, I know what it is, and I know it's a specifically kind of an English, more historical thing, but I've never seen a Victrix like model in a store, like a box ever, around here. They're a slightly different scale too, aren't they? In comparison to say like GW type stuff or regular 28mm. I could be wrong. The infamous Yan Lo, indeed, Yan Lo's beard. I had to glue Venom's knuckles onto his hand. Good old atomic mass. Yeah, I've heard they're not necessarily fun models to build either, which is why I have the starter box for Marvel Crisis Lawnmower, whatever the hell the game's called. I think they made a really good plan with the Star Wars game and just calling it Shatterpoint. Like, okay, that's pretty memorable. Star Wars Shatterpoint. Cool. I'm glad that it was not Star Wars space-time continuum protocol. Anyway. But anyway, I've heard that the models in the box, in the original core box for the Marvel game, are kind of fiddly and no fun to build either. So I am probably going to sell those because I've never even opened it. It's still in the shrink. It's one of those things that I was like, at the beginning of the pandemic, I'm like, I'm going to need a project. I think I'll pick up this core box. Like I didn't have a basement full of models already. It was stupid. Cheaper for GW, but more cost for us. I mean, yes, that's how businesses work. Anytime I get a new person into painting now, I always recommend Zenithal and Speed Paints. Yeah, it does really help a lot. I'm late to the event. What is stopping you from starting your display piece? Not wanting to do it. Not wanting to paint display quality, not wanting to spend that much time on a single model. And also, I have a whole bunch of Imperial Guard I'm working on, and I would much rather work on them. That's really literally it. It is not that I'm like, oh, I don't have any motivation to paint, or I don't have any motivation to hobby. I'm generally always going forward on that kind of stuff. Honestly, having a Twitch channel and following a schedule, that does, like, it does help a bunch. Not only does it get stuff done in general as well, but it also just keeps me going all the time. Like, I talk to people every once in a while who are like, yeah, I haven't painted in 3 months. And I'm like, I have basically set myself up at the very least to paint for 6 hours a week, because I'm painting 3 hours on Monday nights and 3 hours on Friday mornings, by the way. Monday nights, 7 p.m. To 10 p.m. and Friday mornings, 10 a.m. Central to 1 p.m. Central. Or they're at twitch.tv/tabletop minions. Just in case you weren't following me, you should follow me over there. It's fun. I'll be painting again tomorrow, working on the last bits of some Gloomhaven fantasy figures from the Gloomhaven new releases and such. And then after that, I'm moving to probably Guard on Friday. Hello from the Panhandle of West Virginia. How you doing? Thinking about starting to airbrush prime my models, and I was wondering if you could recommend a good starter airbrush. Many thanks in advance. Take care. I would go on I would go on Amazon and look for Masters airbrush. It's either Master or Masters. I want to say there's an S on the end, but I could be wrong. You can very frequently find an airbrush and a compressor from Masters for like $100 total. Maybe 120, depends, I suppose. There's inflation. That being said, if you already have a compressor, like one of those red compressors in your garage to pump up tires or whatever, that kind of stuff, they can also work just fine for an airbrush. You may have to get some sort of an adapter to make the hose fit to the thing and all that kind of stuff. But when I first started, I was using a mid-range kind of airbrush, and I was using a $60, maybe even cheaper, big red, pancake compressor from the hardware store. It was loud. It was crazy loud. But it had a big tank. And so it would just like run and then fill up the tank. And then you'd be spraying in quiet because it would just be pulling out of the tank. And you're like, oh, this is nice. This is nice. And then you would get to the point where you would get like the threshold in the tank, and then the compressor would kick back in and scare the hell out of you. Maybe if you're just me, maybe that's what happened. But yeah, it Eventually that thing did die, and then I just bought a regular airbrush compressor. But yeah, Masters is a good inexpensive brand, and you can usually find their stuff on Amazon. So it's a place to take a look there. Isn't Badger Games from up in the Midwest? They carry historicals. Badger Games is, I want to say, out of Milwaukee. I think they're opening a store, or have opened a store in Milwaukee. It used to be they just traveled around to conventions, but I think they actually have a store in Milwaukee now. Let's see here. Drifted off, drifting back in stupid insomnia. GW has definitely not had anything as absurd as Yanlo's beard in their models, and there are filier to put together these days. Yeah, I agree. I hope you don't feel some serious obligation for the display piece. You've said many times in the past that it wasn't your big thing. Forcing yourself would just be no fun. I guess it's something about getting out of your comfort zone and whatnot, and I should do it. I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah, I don't know. Zenithal is not hard. It actually makes it all much easier and can do it just with spray cans. Sure, you need to have just the right white spray can, though, because very frequently a lot of different white spray cans can be very speckly. Like, they can really just be like, and just, it's gross. It doesn't work out well. It does not give you a nice smooth layer of white that you're looking for to kind of fade to black as you put it over your black primed miniature. That said, honestly, White Scar from Games Workshop, their new cans of white, because they used to do, I think they had a Corax white or some blah, 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 but the White Scar cans are actually, I don't know if it's the formulation or if it's the nozzles or if it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but those new spray cans actually do a pretty decent job. And I did a video about, like, is this good enough for Zenithal? And it's not bad. It's not bad. Airbrush is better. Dry brush can end up being a little bit higher contrast because it catches on the edges a lot more, which is not a bad look. Gives it a kind of a little bit more, contrasty kind of look. And when I say contrast, I don't mean like contrast paint, but the actual, physical differences between, light and black. But yeah, no, the White Scar is not bad. Like the old Demon Prince versus the new Demon Prince model. The old one took less than a third of the time. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, the new Demon Prince model is 6,000 pieces. That's not true, but it's a lot of pieces. Ended up getting their compressor and 2 of their air guns, one for metallics and one for regular paint. So that's pretty cool, yeah. The term that gets me with GW is guard. Death Guard, Vet Guard, Imperial Guard, Fairy Guard, Nose Guard. They need new names. I mean, Mouth Guard. There you go. Pancake compressor sounds tasty. I don't know. I think if you compress pancakes too much, I don't think they get as good. You want a pancake to have some air in it, I think. Victrix are just true scale historicals. Excuse me. So they look a bit different to GW, but work well with a lot of other companies that don't do quite so big on heads, hands, and weapons. GW, I've heard that referred to the bigger hands and the bigger heads and all that kind of stuff. I've heard that referred to as heroic scale. And GW does seem to be backing a little bit away from it. If you take a look at an older, like, Imperial Guard model and the new Cadian Shock Troopers, they are very different. I should actually do some sort of, I don't know, maybe do some social media, because I have some of the older guys and I have some of the newer guys. Once I get the newer guys painted up, I'm going to definitely put them next to each other so you can see the difference. Because, yeah, the older guys, their heads are a lot bigger. Again, their hands and their wrists and their feet, they're just chunky. And the new guys are, I think, a little bit more normally kind of, scaled. So I kind of like that, actually. I don't, the chunky guys are a little bit, they've got a little bit of nostalgia in my mind, because I just saw a friend recently that has like a 1,000-point list of guard, painted like the older guard, and they're painted in the normal style with the tan clothes and the green armor bits and stuff like that and everything. And it's a really nice job. And I was like, oh yeah, but they're all the guys that are kind of chunkier from back in the day. See, now you made me wonder if Badger Airbrush is Wisconsin too. Nope, Illinois. Yeah, they are Illinois. My brother, that is a crepe. Is that what a crepe is? You just take a normal one and you just squish it? I thought that there was something else going on there. Pancakes get a bit cardboardy when you squish them. That makes sense, sure. Anyone know where to get the decorative wooden blocks that a lot of Golden Demon entries are placed on, or what they are called? They're called plinths. P-L-I-N-T-H. It's a plinth. I got the plinth that my display piece is going to go on off of eBay. I honestly think it might have come from Noble Knight Games, now that I come to think of it. But yeah, just do a search on either Etsy or eBay for plinths. You know, like miniature plinth, something like that. You'll find all kinds of choices. But plinth is the word that you want. Marvel compressor pancakes. There you go. See? Let's see here. Let's see. Marvel compressor pancakes. Sounds kind of tasty, actually. Yeah, so I've just got to figure out what to do as far as that. I think that honestly, just sitting down and well, okay, so step one, I've discovered this too. Step one to painting this model, because it's going to be not on a normal gaming base, you know, a round base. He's just standing there right now. So I need to drill into his little feet and then put some pieces of probably paper clip, like drill in a little bit, glue in some pieces of paper clip, and then attach him to some wooden block or something so that I've got a handle to hold on to him while I'm painting. Because I'm not going to glue him to the plinth until it's like towards the end. I have the plinth, like I said, it's all done, or it's all, you know, it's purchased, and it's already, I got to probably sand the top and all that kind of stuff. He's going to be kind of in a little bit of an urban environment, and I have these little 3D printed pieces of like urban rubble and stuff like that from a company called Epic Basing, I think. Ninjan gave them to me when we went and visited him at his house. Me and Vince visited him, and Scott was there too. We visited him last year, right after the launch of Space Station Zero. So it would have been sometime around late August is when we went and visited. And so he had a bunch of that stuff 3D printed already, and he was just like, he like gave Vince and I a baggie, and he's just like, here, have at it, and knock yourselves out. So we grabbed some stuff. And so I'm going to be using that stuff on my base. So I already have like everything that I'm planning on doing. It's in my head. It's just been getting it actually going is just blech, not working out. No leavening agents in crepes equals no air. Yeah, but if you made a regular pancake and then just squished it real flat, I don't think that would make a crepe, would it? I don't know. I'm wondering how outrageously priced this Legion Imperialis is going to be. Saw a video shot of the models, and I'm like, it's the type of stuff you might like. Well, I mean, take a look at the prices for Titanicus, because this is basically just more Titanicus. Like Titanicus is like all the big guys walking around, and then this is just going to be like the airplanes and the little tanks and the little tiny people and all that jazz. It'll be not cheap. Let's just say that. I mean, but no one's surprised by that. Let's see here. Plinths. Check your local lumber place that does fancy flooring if you're looking for cut-off. No, not cut-offs, offcuts. There you go. Sorry for caps lock. No, that's okay. I just thought you were very, adamant about how to do this, but that's fine. Offcuts is the magic word in a lot of industries for the bits on the floor. Oh, sure, yeah. We grilled out last night, and I have a bag of the bits on the floor. Hickory, I think, which I'm sure, again, is pretty much just stuff that they swept off the floor at some milling place. And then you take that and you sprinkle that on your fire or whatever if you want to smoke stuff or something like that. I think you're supposed to soak it in water first, but yeah. You can find a free STL on My Mini Factory of 5 or so plinths to print or have someone print. You have to scale them up quite a bit. 50 millimeter was around 6K%. Interesting. Yeah, I've never used a 3K or a 3D printed type of plinth or anything like that. I mean, it'd be kind of interesting to do as well. But yeah, this is just a normal, like basically because we were at Vince's house and Vince paints display painting stuff all the time. I took the model, which was built but not yet even gap filled or anything like that, And then Vince went into his hobby area and came out with I don't know, maybe a box of plinths. Maybe it was just a handful. I don't know. He had a lot of plinths. And I'm like, well, do I want to put it on a rectangular one? Do I want to put it on a square one? Do I want to put it on a round one? What, and then determined, I was like, okay, I'm looking for square. I'm looking for roughly this size. And then I went on eBay and then ordered it. And yeah, it's a nice plinth. I think the pinning to a base is one of the reasons I hate doing it. I just want to glue to a base without thinking. Yeah, same here. Just reminded me the Faces tune around the plinth. Stars finally lined up to show up in person. Sundays are busy for me. Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you were able to make it. Need the Dave Chappelle crackhead meme. Y'all got any more of them offcuts? Sure. Do I know anybody who does lumber stuff a lot? No, I don't. Cooking with Uncle Adam, that would not go well. Titanicus is pretty cheap, isn't it? $700 per model or so. I don't think it's that expensive, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, that's another thing too. Like, part of the reason that I was also not interested in Titanicus is because, like, so I have not yet. I have painted an armature, which is the like Warglaive armature, which is like, I don't know, maybe they're maybe 4 inches tall. And then the next step up is to going to full-blown Imperial Knight, which is maybe 6 to 7 inches tall, depending. Excuse me. So when you're talking about a model that's like good 6 to 7 inches tall, okay, cool. Now I'm going to go in there and I'm going to put on a little, shoulder pad icons, the water slide decals, all that stuff. There's lots of detail and things like that and everything, and that's cool. Okay, now take that same model, bring it into Titanicus, and that guy is this big again. And I just can't, like, I have seen people paint Titanicus stuff, and I'm not even talking about GW stuff. Like, I got a friend here in town who's big into Titanicus stuff, and his models have amazing detail and amazing, like, water slide decal work and all this stuff, but they're still only, like, this big. And I'm like, I think I would have a hard time getting really clean, good results on a big model. And now you wanted me to shrink that way down and try to get that's also put me off of Titanicus. That and the fact that I'm just not interested in the scale a lot. It's the scale's not. I don't mean the scale to. I mean the scale to like a big battle. Little scale, that's fine. Whatever. Like I don't see a lot of people putting water slide decals on BattleTech stuff. Do I? I don't think I do. I maybe some people are, but I haven't seen too much of it. Plastic plinths don't look as good as wood. Yeah, I can see that. What size drill bits do you use for pinning? Ugh, I have no idea. I use the ones... I have like a little set of a bunch of different little sizes, and I pull one out, and I take my paper clip, and I put the back end of the drill bit to the piece of paper clip, and I'm like, nope, that's too big. Nope, that's too small. Until I figure out the right one, but I don't have any idea what size they are. Because it's a cheap set of drill bits and they don't have like labeled the thing where you put it in there. They're not labeled, and it doesn't say on the drill bit either, really, because they're very, very, very tiny. So I have no idea. I would tell you that the best bet in all those situations is always to buy like a little set of drill bits where they have a bunch of different sizes, because then you'll probably find what you're looking for. Like I have one that I've like drawn on with a Sharpie because this is the one that I use for bolters, just so I don't like lose it and stick it in someplace and then go, oh, I don't know where my bolter one is. So, that kind of stuff. But plinths is a good word. It is fun to say plinths. I agree. I've used the STL plinths a handful of times. I'm no computer whiz, but I've been able to rescale the plinths to whatever size needed, right, on the printing software. Sure. And by 6K, I mean 6,000. That's what I thought. Yeah. Cooking with Uncle Adam would be terrible. You're huge, and have severe doubts about finding a suitable oven. That's also true. That's a good point. None of the wow stick bits are labeled with their size, so it's an exercise in eyeballing it. Yeah. I've just used one of those recently because I had to drill. It's funny, like in the old Imperial Guard kits for the vehicles, like the built into the hull, kind of like, let's say, what do you call it? The built into the hull heavy bolter has, because it's two pieces and you put it together, it's then the barrel is like drilled out because it's two pieces. But then the one that you stick up on the top on the turret is not two pieces. So you have to drill out the barrel. And I'm like, Okay, well, so I'm not drilling out the barrel to the same degree as the barrel is hollow on the bottom part, the part that's built into the, because it's like it's a really thin wall around that gun and it just looks a little weird. I'm just like, okay, I'll leave it. But on the other one, that one I drilled out, but I needed to find a bigger bit than obviously the one that I use on a regular bolter or anything like that, and that's a whole thing. But yeah. If you're not feeling doing the piece, you're not going to enjoy the process. Nothing wrong with staying in your comfort zone. I like that concept too. I'm not going to lie, but I don't know. There's a whole site dedicated to Battletech decals that Catalyst themselves advertise. Oh, that's kind of cool. Neat. Go to Harbor Freight for tiny drill bits. They are so cheap you don't care if they break. Yeah, probably. It would be a good idea to bring your hand drill or whatever along with you if you can, whether you're using a pin vise or whatever you're using, just so you know that that back end of the bits is going to fit. Because sometimes, like on bits, they'll have like a tiny little bit, but then the chuck part or whatever, the part that goes into the actual body of the drill or whatever, can be a lot thicker. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, this doesn't fit in my thing. So just not a bad idea to bring that along. I think the pack was less than $10 for a bunch of tiny drill bits. Nice. Battletech Classic is not fun. Alpha Strike, on the other hand, sure. Re-pinning. Love my WoW stick. Low speed, high torque. You know, my WoW stick goes faster than I would like. It's great for putting bullet holes and stuff, but for trying to drill a barrel, it's way too fast. I still use my pin vise for drilling barrels. But for anything else I need to drill, like if I had to just like drill a hole in some feet to glue in some wire to pin something, that's fine. But for drilling barrels, it's not good for me. I've tried it once and I was like, oh, that ruined that very quickly. I think I use a number 78 drill bit for pinning. Seems to fit the paper clips I use here. Interesting. I have a set of water slide decals for the inner sphere houses I brought online. Huh. I mean, it makes sense that somebody would put it out there, but I would think they'd have to be so tiny, though. Like, really tiny. I'm also really finding that I'm enjoying the newer water slide decals from GW. I have 2 sheets for vehicle decals for Imperial Guard. One from the Chimera, like, so one of the reasons I'm doing in a 1,000-point list of for Imperial Guard is because after buying the Combat Patrol, I was then like looking at all the different things that could go into a list, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, I think I have a box with a Chimera in it in the basement. And I went down and looked, and it's an old box. It's back when instead of having the flap on the top and you pulled the stuff out, it was just like a top and a bottom that came apart. And it has the old logo, and it has the old picture on the front, and like all that stuff. And it's an old box. And but I had it, so I was like, and I bought it, I think, because I was going to use it for terrain or something like that. I bought it cheap someplace. I think maybe a swap meet or something. But it had all the parts, so I built it. And but the transfer sheet in there on the date on it, I think, says 2000, so it's old. And then the recent sheet that I have is the exact same sheet, but it's dated 2020. Like the little copyright thing at the bottom, but it's the exact same sheet. But if you look at them in the light just right, you can tell on the 2020, if you've done any water slide decal stuff from GW recently, or just better water slide decals, you can see where the clear part is, and that's the part that separates from the back. Whereas older water slide decals, the entire piece from where you cut it separated from the back. Does that make any sense? It's like, if you catch them in the light, the newer ones, you can see the bumps of the clear stuff over the actual artwork. And you know that when you let it get wet, just that part will slide away. So it's almost like it's pre-cut out, which is really nice. The older style, it's you have to cut as close as possible because the entire plastic clear part will pull away from the backing when you get it wet, and then you have to place it where you want to. So with the new ones, you could just cut a square around a thing, and then whatever shape it is will just kind of pull away, and then you can stick it where you want, which is really nice. But yeah, you have to kind of look, sort of catch it in the light to see the difference. And it's mostly on the newer ones. I don't know where the cutoff is when they started doing this, but it certainly wasn't the year 2000. Forgot I own a WoW stick. I just keep reaching for my pin vise. Like I said, on barrels, that's what I'm going to keep using. But for anything else, the WoW stick is real nice. Does anyone know of any models, gangster models? I want to Make a musket meme squad. Take a look for pulp. I would say your keyword in that situation would be pulp. Maybe pulp mobster miniature. Like if you were going to be looking, let's say, either on Google or on something like My Mini Factory if you've got access to 3D printing. But if you don't, do a search for, there's a series called Pulp Alley, a game, and they make a lot of different miniatures and stuff like that. And they have this kind of like 40s kind of sort of situation going on there, like 1940s and stuff. So they probably have some mobsters you might be able to find. Getting back into Battletech is so hard for me. I understand the eras, but just getting one mech seems difficult. The way Catalyst sells it turns me off. Yeah, they definitely want you to be running around with a whole bunch of mechs at once, which I think slows the game down a lot, at least in my opinion. Back in the day, we would generally just play. When I first was playing, we always just play with one mech a piece, and then that way that's fine. I did pick up the for the PlayStation. There was a super crazy sale, and I bought Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries for the PlayStation 4 for like, I don't know, $8 or something like that. And strangely, and I found this interesting, it is 3015, the year. Like, so it's real early in the kind of the Battletech timeline, which I was kind of surprised by. Secondly, it's not very good. There's something weird going on with it. Like, I'm playing it on the PlayStation, and it's like there's a filter over the game to make things look a little fuzzy. But, like, the text looks sharp. Like, at first I was just like, oh, there's something wrong with my connection to my television because everything looks weird and fuzzy. And it's not. It's the game. It's almost like a visual texture they're putting over the game to make it, I don't know, but it looks weird and slightly fuzzy. But the text, like I said, is sharp, and the animations when you're, like, in between, like, waiting for the... Like, everything else is nice and sharp. When you get in the game, things look weirdly filtered in some fashion and kind of not sharp and not fuzzy, and I don't know what that's all about. Yeah, luckily it was cheap. Tamaya, I'm never gonna get that right. Makes a model kit that is a drill with an electric motor that has RPMs that are designed to not melt plastic. Well, that's not a bad thing. Those guys seem pretty smart. There are a few manufacturers that make gangsters. Cobblestone Castings comes to mind, and their range is from Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. Interesting. I meant like hood gangsters. Oh, like more modern, like gangstas, technically, is what you're looking for. That I have not seen. Well, take a look at Slow Death Games. Slow Death Games has a game called Wild in the Streets, which might have something like that. Maybe. If you're playing classic, one mech is each is plenty. Alpha Strike, you can play with an entire lance at the same speed or faster. Interesting. P3 used to have the best spray cans. I didn't even know P3 made spray cans. That's interesting. I had no idea. Heading out for Battletech Grinder and League Session Draft. Wish me luck. Well, absolutely, Tigger Tails. Absolutely. I was into the online Battle Royale Mech Warrior, but the Mercs 5 has a weak control scheme AI, and the mech building is a letdown. I just picked it up because I thought I'd give it a try. It's okay. It's not great. Like I said, it looks weird. It plays okay, but it's not, I don't know. It's, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't really played much in the way of video games lately. Like every once in a while, I'll poke my head back into GTA 5 and mess around a little bit. But I haven't done that much lately either. What else? Honestly, for me right now, the thing that I'm really waiting for is Starfield from Bethesda. That's supposed to be coming out in early September. So I'm interested in playing that because it's a new intellectual property from them. It's a new IP. They haven't had a new IP. I just read something somewhere recently that they haven't had a new IP in 25 years. So that's something. It's more of a kind of a hard sci-fi kind of RPG, so I'm interested in that too. There's like 1,000 worlds or so. So that's, yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Tamaya, let's just call the whole thing off. There you go. We need more cat police, Adam. I do want to. Did you finish Valheim? I did not. No. I've played twice. I think the first time I played, we got through the 4. There's like 5 main bad guys you got to kill. I want to say in the first game that I played, with a lot of help from moderator Matt, we maybe got through 3 out of 5, or maybe even 4 out of 5. I don't remember. I think I only got through 1 out of 5 in the game I was playing by myself. Or was it 2? No, I want to say it was only 1 out of 5. Baldur's Gate 3 is shaping up to be really good if D&D strikes your fancy. Yeah, I've been thinking about... It's not out yet, is it? I'm interested in checking it out once it comes out. Question, are bases now 32 millimeters, or is that just a GW thing? Bases are whatever size you want, frankly. GW has been leaning towards moving a little bit more away from 25 millimeter bases. Because the models are getting kind of bigger here and there, specifically like Primaris Marines and things like that, they're having a tendency to put them on 32 millimeter bases. They did recently, within the last 5, 6, 7 years or so, they also have come out now with 28 millimeter bases, which is annoying when you accidentally glue a model onto a 25 millimeter base because the difference is so slight. Or vice versa. You put a model that was supposed to go on a 25 onto a 28, and then you're like, that 28 was supposed to go on a different guy, and then you're like, ugh. Anyway, yeah, I kind of wish that they would pick a lane a little bit. I like the 32 millimeter bases. I especially like the fact that they finally started putting Necrons on 32 millimeter bases. I don't know if you've ever seen the old Necrons where they were kind of man spreading a lot. They definitely had like a wide stance, those Necrons, and then you had to put them on a 25 millimeter base, and you're basically just gluing, like their feet were kind of out like this, and you were just gluing the heels of their feet onto the 25 millimeter base, and you're like, well, that looks comfortable. And I'm sure it's going to keep sticking there for a good long time. So now at least those models, like I like the 32s because it does give you a little bit more space on certain models. But I'm 98% sure that these new Imperial Guard shock troopers, I wanted to say Shatterpoint troopers, but that's not right. The shock troopers are still on 25s. I'm 90% sure. It's either 25s or 28s. It's kind of hard to tell. God forbid they put the number on the underside of the base when you look at it. They refuse to do that, and I don't know why. But boy, oh boy, will they not put the number on the underside of that base. I don't get it. BG3 depends on what you mean by out. It's still in early access. I mean, like not in early access anymore. Like I can see myself pulling the trigger on that when it's released. There's certain games, there's indie games that I'll definitely try out in early access, Valheim being one of them for sure. But like Baldur's Gate 3 is not an indie game, so then I'm like, I'll wait until it comes out for real, and then I'll pick it up. That's my own weirdness. Your mileage may vary. Guard Command Squad is on a different base size despite being the same models as the normal squads in 25. Many mistakes were made. Who's to say whether they're mistakes or not? One man's mistake is another man's not mistake. I don't know. Gonna workshop that. I think there's still a deal for buying Baldur's Gate 3 when it's in early access. It's so close, I decided to buy it and get the deal, even though I won't bother to play it until after 1.0. Yeah. As long as you're not trying to base for advantage, I don't care if it matters. I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, if someone's like, oh, I'm going to put a huge base on this guy, and I'm like, okay, well, that means you're just more in range of me when I shoot back at you. Like, you having a bigger base doesn't matter. Like, if I made this huge base on my guy who's only this big, and I'm like, I mean, I guess I can block, access to certain lanes through a particular board if I want to go down that road, sure. But otherwise, as far as shooting, yes, you can shoot further, but you can also be shot at from further away because your base is so darn big. I could see it would be then easier to take objectives maybe too, but it would also be very much harder for you to go into certain spots because your base is too big. I don't know. Shock troops are 25 millimeter, command squad are on 28s. Gotcha. After dremeling my thumbnail, I just use my power drill for pinning. Much easier to control the speed. True, true. Oh, wait, I thought you meant hand drill. You're going to use a power drill instead of a Dremel? Huh. I think a power drill. Well, yeah, power drills definitely have the trigger thing, and sometimes they'll go slower. Yeah, I could see that. I tend to put models on slightly larger bases for stability and to provide more room for basing embellishments. Sure. Keep a pair of calipers in my desk, and one of its primary uses is measuring bases. Yeah. We don't make mistakes here. We have happy accidents. Are they that happy, though? It depends. Northstar has some kind of pre-order for scavengers, and the sci-fi scavengers seem to look pretty neat. Yeah, I pulled the trigger on that. It's not like a Kickstarter or... Like, I appreciate that they're just like, look, it's a pre-order. Like, we're not going to make it a Kickstarter or crowdfunding. It's like, we're going to do this, but if you want to get it, you can pay ahead. And then if enough people pay ahead, then we'll throw in some free stuff. And there you go. So, yeah, I did that, and it will eventually show up when it shows up. But, yeah, the new Stargrave-style plastic miniature scavenger guys are really cool looking from what I've seen. And I like, honestly, just about all the plastic models that company puts out, I'm on board for. Them and Wargame Vault, or sorry, not Wargame Vault, Wargame Atlantic. Those two companies are doing good stuff for indie plastic, in my opinion. If you're cool with resin, like decent poured resin, much better than fine cast, then and really modular, crazy, cool stuff, then you're looking at Anvil Industry. They do awesome work too. They just posted a thing on Twitter because one of the guys who works there is working on a Majestic 13 team using Anvil Industry models and stuff, and they just posted that stuff a couple days ago on Twitter. I designed some 1x2 tall cylinders and a tool for swapping a mini out to cut out modeling for advantage or disadvantage. We use them in Frostgrave and Stargrave. Interesting. Dremeling your thumb doesn't sound like a happy accident. I mean... Sometimes I've had people that I know who have hit their thumb like really hard with a hammer or something, and you get like a big nasty blood blister behind the thumbnail. And then I've seen people that will go and they'll use like a hand drill and just very slowly drill until they pop through, and then the blood shoots out, and then because otherwise there's like a pressure because you got this blood that's building up underneath your thumbnail and it hurts. So then you pop and then but yeah. The best plan of action is to not do that, like not hit your thumb, I think, if you can help it. The reason the command squad is on larger bases is because of how top-heavy the flag bearer is, and the unit spaces need to match. Yeah, that guy is top-heavy. I think I'm going to probably, because he's built, I still might just glue a washer or something on the underside of that base if I can find just the right size, or a nickel. You're not supposed to do that, but probably legally, but I don't care. I'm a rebel. I'll glue a nickel on the other side there. But yeah, that'll help because the guy with the flag, it's a big honking flag, and he is a bit top heavy. I use a cordless drill with a collet chuck adapter. It is way cheaper than a WoW stick. I love Northstar so much and Wargame Atlantic. Yep, they do great work. I'm debating getting the Kit Bash kit. I do enjoy my Stargrave. Stargrave, yep, absolutely. I'm waiting for the Veil Touch miniatures. Wargaming Dave. Yeah, I painted up some of those for a thing when that was coming out or whatever. I think the late pledge thing or whatever they were doing. Some of the kind of like chaos, like it's almost like traitor, or what am I trying to say? It's like almost like chaos cultists, but they're all women. And I had a lot of fun painting those. They were very cool. Way better than letting the pressure build so much that it tears your thumbnail off. Yeah. 3 stitches in my finger was not a happy accident. It doesn't sound like one, no. They really should be 32 millimeter, but they compromised. I think that they're just not interested in putting anything guard on a 32, which I can see, sorta, kinda. Well, I mean, they're going to go bigger than 32. I'm sure they probably go 40 millimeter, but like for Ogren and stuff like that, or maybe even 50, 40 or 50. Yeah. I should. You can build in the new. You can do an Ogren bodyguard as a character, just to slap him into a unit. I should look into doing that. Maybe. I swear I've got a half-used box of Ogren somewhere in the basement. I should look into that. I got the off-brand WoW stick, and it works well for all my all my holes not too fast. Oh, that's nice if it's not too fast. Because, yeah, like I said, the WoW stick I feel is a little quick. I wish I could turn it down. My Tzeentch demons have 2p coins underneath because they're so top heavy on their 25mm bases. Yep. Happened to my left big toe. Well, that's no good. I put washers under my CGL mechs to add weight. Really like it since the bases have a hollow part underneath the hex. Oh, sure. I can see that. Yeah. Got rid of my old power drill some years ago as the battery was gone and a new one was absurdly expensive. Yeah, that's sometimes the problem is that they're like, oh yeah, this is an inexpensive thing. And then the battery dies and they're like, well, the batteries are pretty expensive. Yeah. WGA has the damned range on GameFound. It should be going to late pledge in a few weeks. Yeah, I missed it when it was originally doing its crowdfund, and I will probably try to pick up a late pledge because they look pretty cool. Wargames Atlantic stuff, the damned stuff was neat. Back in my army days, I was working on a 50 cal machine gun. I was doing some quick work trying to extract brass from the bolt that a soldier got stuck in there. The bolt went forward and smashed the back of my thumb. The fix was just to rip the whole thumbnail off. Took a year for it to grow back normally. Well, that sounds no fun at all. Ugh. Adding washers is my favorite way to store my minis too. They are in magnetized, really useful boxes. It's so much better than foam in my opinion. Nice. I use Aeromax Pro Drill. It's variable speed depending on how fast or slow you spin the drill. It has 3 or 4 different speeds. I like it much better than the WoW stick. Huh. Harbor Freight has a WoW stick that runs pretty slow. That I should look at. We've got a Harbor Freight here in town. Interesting. I usually use birdshot to weight my bases. I have seen that. I've seen people use like a bunch of CA glue or some kind of glue. You can't use plastic glue, I don't think. But I've seen people use a bunch of glue and then sprinkle birdshot on the underside of the bases. So if the model's like this, you know, you've got that kind of like because the model's the base is kind of hollow on the underside. The only downside to adding something to the base like that is that I've found is that so I have a Realm of Battle board. The old school one that had the cracks in the ground and you could see all the skulls in there and all that kind of stuff like that. I years and years and years ago, I asked everybody who for my birthday to just give me cash, and then I added more cash to it, and then I bought that big honky. It was like $300 back in the day. It's probably way more expensive now, but yeah, the old Realm of Battle board, and like some of there were like integrated hills on on 4 of the 6 panels, like towards the corner, there was an integrated hill. And so you could build them so that the hill would become big. You know, it was a whole thing. It's all very modular. It's a great set. I enjoy having it. One of the downsides to it is rolling dice on it. Incredibly loud. So don't do that. Roll the dice someplace else. Don't roll them on the Realm of Battle board. It's really loud. The other thing is those kind of integrated modular little hills. If you put a model on there that has the normal kind of hollow base, like, you know, I don't know if you can see that, but this is like a normal GW. This is a Age of Sigmar dude. Actually, Miniac painted this. But yeah, like this can catch on the texture so that he can stand on a slant a little bit, right? But if this was a resin base that was pre-textured and all that stuff, then they're completely flat on the bottom, and when you put him on one of those, he just slides down like he's skiing. Like I had a friend who had a bunch of really cool resin bases, but when he would come over and play on that particular board, all of his guys could never stand on any kind of an incline because they would just slide down because there was nothing to like hook the edge of the terrain, the edge of the like texture. So that was troublesome. But even if you throw like a nickel into something like that, at least you still have the rimmer on the edge to kind of still catch on the texture a little bit, it seems. I don't know. Cutting plastic sheet styrene with big scissors once. I almost cut off the tip of my right index finger when I was 17. Since it was on my right finger, I couldn't dress it by myself. Yeah, I get that, sure. I put small neodyne magnets in the middle of the washers on my mechs. Works awesome. Nice. I'm actually not too far off from being done with the AdMech force. Need to base the destroyer and the breachers and then spend time on call. Nice. I I use a rigged 12-volt drill. It has variable speeds and variable speed trigger. Nice. I use lead shot only in my most unbalanced minis, but it does a good job. Yeah, I can see it definitely working well in certain models. Yeah, especially ones that are a lot more top heavy. Like back in the day, the new Gene Stealers. Are there new Gene Stealers? No, there's just Termagants so far. We haven't seen new Gene Stealers. Gene Stealers have always been tippy because they're kind of leaning in forward so much when they're running. Termagants were like that too, but they're less so now a little bit. Friend recently got a resin 3D printer. We're really into Kill Team and D&D. Got any Patreons or STL makers to recommend? Arch Villain makes really cool stuff. Arch Villain is a great one. Titan Forge, also quite good. They have a, what's the sci-fi version? Cyberforge, I think, is their sci-fi version. Titan Forge, I think, is mostly fantasy. Cyberforge is the other one. One Page Rules, like if you do their Patreons, their stuff is really, really good too. And a lot of their stuff has got not everything, but some of their things you look at and go, okay, these could be Necrons, or okay, these could be Sisters of Battle. But then they also have other stuff out there that's like, there's nothing like this in GW, because they've been trying to kind of get away from that a little bit. But they do have some things. And the thing is, you don't even have to do the Patreon if you don't want to. You can just go onto My Mini Factory and look them up, and then pick and choose things from the past and just buy them a la carte. If you do the Patreon, there's nothing wrong with that, but understand that you're going to get access to stuff this month and going forward, but not necessarily the old stuff. You may get a discount on the old stuff. Very frequently, some of these Patreons, or even Tribes, which is basically Patreon but built into My Mini Factory, those things will have usually some sort of discount code or something like that. But hey, Uncle Adam, thanks for the stream. Would like to hear your thoughts on the new 40k unit point system. Is this just an index thing? I hope not. I hope we stay this way. I think it's the best. I like it so much more. I don't want to... Let's be perfectly frank, it's taken directly from Age of Sigmar. It's worked great for Age of Sigmar, and I know that there are people that are complaining about it, but I think they just don't like change. I don't ever want to have to be like, I want to take a plasma pistol on this guy, but I can't because I'm 10 points short or 5 points short. Yeah, no, that's not fun. That takes the fun out of gaming, in my opinion. So I would much rather be able to be able to use the tools that I want to use, by just being like, okay, this unit costs 200 points. Cool. What kind of weapons can I put in here? Here's the restrictions. Do I have to pay extra for the weapons? No, I'm on board. Absolutely. That's, like I said, it's the exact same thing that they do in, for the most part, in Age of Sigmar. And you're taking 5 models or you're taking 10 models. I don't have a problem with that either. Like the whole concept of like, yeah, but what if I have 8? Well, I don't know. I guess you pay for 10 then, and then you only have 8. That's, again, the same way they've been doing it for Age of Sigmar. So this is nothing new. Let's just be perfectly honest there. They did change it for Death Guard for Plague Marines, which makes sense because they do come 7 to a box. So, yeah. And I get why they changed that. But again, they didn't necessarily, I don't think they went through and said, okay, well, just with the Plague Marines, you can go per model. I don't want to have to do that. It's so much quicker and easier to build, just like kind of list hammer and just be like that's the one thing about the app that's actually kind of nice, is it's very quick to just list hammer and just be like, I want to take this. The downside to the 40k app so far is that once you've built your list, the app stops being useful because there's no good way to look at that list, like to have it on the table while you're playing and go, oh, well, what's the toughness on that guy? Oh, I don't know. I have to click like 5 times to find that out. There's no good like display of your stuff. They'll show you, here's your list, but there's no stats or anything. You have to go through and click through a bunch of ways, and it's dumb. So it's good for list building. It's terrible for playing the game. And I wish that they would fix that, but I don't think they will. Yeah, no, I have no problem with it at all. I'm a big fan. Just spent 5 minutes scouring a sprue for a bit that I'd already put on the mini. Clearly more coffee needed. That does happen, yep. I flatten lead fishing sinkers with a hammer on an anvil for weighting bases. Huh. I super glue a washer into the base and use magnets on my painting handles. That's pretty cool. Wargames Atlantic and Anvil have My Mini Factory Tribes. Oh, I didn't know that. I knew that they had Patreons, I think. Two? Do they also have Patreons, or they just have tribes? Station Forge is also good sculpture if you're looking for guard. I'm not familiar with Station Forge. Artisan Guild is great fantasy stuff. A bit World of Warcraft themed, but really designed well for painting. Nice. Have you ever gotten a mini that was cool and out of your normal genre? Yeah, probably. I don't know. My genres are like, well, have I painted anything historical? Not since Flames of War, honestly. Like Flames of War, I enjoyed painting the tanks well enough and putting little transfers on them and all that kind of stuff. But I did not enjoy painting little tiny people like that big. So yeah. Have an old metal color Sergeant Kell that I cannot get to stay standing. We'll have to try lead shot. Yeah. Archvillain has beautiful models. I don't find them well designed for painting. I don't know. Like this guy is from their sci-fi line, and I really had a fun time painting him. I did a video about this. Well, not about this guy necessarily, but it was about kind of the process of, and whatnot. Use this as an example. But yeah, this is all. I think I had to glue the gun on, or not the gun, the missile pod. But I think all the rest of it. Oh, I had to glue the guy onto the base too. The whole onto the base. But everything else on this was pretty much all one piece. The gun or the missile pod I might have had to glue on because maybe it broke or something like that. I don't remember, but yeah, it was pretty simple. So yeah, I've been enjoying their sci-fi stuff quite a bit. I've done a bunch of stuff with them. The only issue is that when they nerf a whole class of weapons, i.e. indirect, and a unit has one indirect weapon and the non-indirect, and it's not good for the non-indirect weapon. So, so I see what you're saying. So if you have a choice between something that shoots direct and something that shoots indirect, and you get, like, so the Manticore just recently got up to like 20 points because it's got indirect fire missiles. Now, that's not a good example in this situation because I don't think the Manticore can take anything but indirect fire missiles. So, but if there was a weapon platform or whatever where you're like, okay, they had to raise the price because you're using... yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It happens, here and there a little bit, but I don't know that it's necessarily a throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of situation. I just don't want to go back to nickel and diming on points. I just don't want to be like, oh, well, this guy gets a plasma gun at 15 points, but these guys get him at 10 and this and that. And like anytime that I'm told, look, you can't use that because you don't have enough points, even though you paid for the... It's just, it takes fun out of the game, and games are supposed to be fun. And so for me, at least, I just want to be able to take the cool stuff and not have to constantly worry. I mean, it saves you on magnetizing. It saves you on so many different things because you're just like, it used to be back in the day when I was like in 6th edition specifically, I was magnetizing everything because in 6th edition, all of a sudden they were like, there are power weapons, there were no longer power weapons, power swords, power axes, power mauls, power baseball bats, power weed whackers. Like everything was different and they all had different stats. And so like power axes were better for attacking Terminators, but power swords were better for attacking Space Marine type people. Like it just like it was a whole thing. So you were constantly like having to swap out arms. So you'd have like a sergeant for your whatever squad, and one of his arms would be magnetized, and you just have like 5 different weapons for him to be able to swap back and forth all the time. And then you also had to consider that each of those was different points, and it was yeah, I'm not interested in going down that road, and that's fine. Some people want to do that. I think that they could just pay extra points if they wanted to, just for fun, but I don't think they're going to want to do that either. Have a good night, VJ Morph. Absolutely. I mean, really not use lead. You're going to be touching it. Lead is toxic. That's true. As someone who used to sell lead shot, please make sure you wash your hands. Sure. Coilmaster makes a perfect cutting tool for sprues. It's made for vaping, but found it's great for models. Cuts plastic and metal, doesn't lose its edge. Nice. Just looking at Archvillain Games, nice to see that they have female minis. Yep. Let's see here. List Builder in the app, you just click on the unit and then hit the button up in the top right that looks like a sheet of paper, and it brings up all the stats. But isn't it separating them in some fashion? It doesn't seem to just bring up the data sheet. That's what I want. I just want to see the data sheet or a card or whatever it's called. I don't want to have it, like, I don't know why they can't just give us that as opposed to being like, give us some sort of stats. I'll have to go back and look again. Maybe they've changed it recently. Like I said, I've been using it just to build stuff. And then once I've got something figured out, then I have to go figure out how to find the index card, pull it out of the PDF, and then like either print it or put it into something, a different PDF so that I can use that kind of thing. It's a whole thing. It's like it's close. Like they've done sort of good work, but they're still just like not wanting to show you. Because I thought when you hit the button up there, it just showed you like a printout kind of like, here's all the things you have and how much they cost, but none of the stats. But I could be thinking about it. Oh, my iPad's over there. I could take a look. I'll take a look right after the stream. But so far, really fun for building units quickly or building lists quickly. But otherwise, it hasn't been doing my... I do miss Battlescribe. Like when you click that little eyeball thing up at the top, and then it just gives you that long printout sheet and all the things. Like it doesn't show you any stuff you don't care about. Like, oh, here's a thing for heavy bolter. I'm not taking a heavy bolter. Well, we still put it on the card. You know what I mean? Instead, it's just like, you're using these 3 weapons. Here's the stats for these 3 weapons. This guy doesn't have this ability, so therefore we're not going to show you that ability. Like that kind of stuff. It's kind of nice, especially for Warcry. Yeah, it's really nice for Warcry. Battlescribe is, because it just only shows you the special abilities, you know, for when you're rolling your dice at the beginning. It only shows you the special abilities that this particular list has access to, which the book always shows you all the abilities, and then you're constantly looking at the icons to go, do I have the skull with the 3 horns on my card, or do I not? I don't remember. And also, Battlescribe just puts in the words for all those things instead of all the dumb icons, which I don't like. So that's also an issue. All right, folks. Well, it's 11 o'clock here in my neck of the woods, and I want to thank you folks for coming by and hanging out. Hopefully this week I'm going to get rolling on that display piece, but we'll see how it goes. At the very least, I want to get his feet drilled and get him attached to some sort of handle. Yeah, that's the hope, and then we'll go from there. Because once I get that done, then getting him primed won't be a problem, and then hopefully that'll get the ball rolling. So again, thanks for coming by, and I hope that maybe you got some hobby done, or you just kind of relaxed and listened. That's fun too. And if you get the chance, come by Twitch tomorrow night at 7 p.m., and I'll be there working on the Gloomhaven guys and chatting and talking for 3 hours, and then be doing it again on Friday. So we'll see you folks soon, and stay safe.